For more, let's bring in Markos Moulitsas, publisher of the DailyKos, and Tom Tancredo, former Republican congressman from Colorado. Congressman, why is it that the House Republican leadership is legitimizing hate?
They're not. They're any more than any Democrat who spoke to the thousands of crowds and rallies that were in Washington, D.C. against Bush, where people go to your computer, Google posters against Bush at rallies. It'll explode. You got Bush posters with the S's looking like.
Right, you're talking about code pink, and there were not Democratic lawmakers. That's the difference. You weren't, Congressman. The House Democratic leadership was not there.
Don't interrupt me. You just asked me a question, and I'm telling you that there were plenty of posters just as offensive, and Democrats were speaking at the same time. I remember one gal carrying around a poster with a Bush head severed from the torso and all bloody. Nobody said anything about that. Listen, this poster
that was wrong, but here's the question is, why didn't you say something about it then? Congressman, let's make it clear. Is it wrong when somebody shows a photo at any rally, when they show a photo at any rally of a Nazi concentration camp to try to make a point about anything? Is that ever appropriate? Ever?
You bet. Never. It's all ugly. I tell you, it's been ugly for a long, long time, but there's been no reaction by the part on the press to all the crap I saw when I was in the Congress of the United States, and people were coming there with posters and stuff about George Bush that would make your hair stand on end. But nobody said anything then. Okay,
actually, a lot of people did, but let's get to Markos Moulitsas. Markos, what's going on here?
Who did that?
All of us. I remember doing segments on Hardball where we would feature code pink and some of the tactics they were using. But that's another issue. Markos, what's going on here on the Republican right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been cranks on the left as well in some of those protests, but the difference is that the Democratic leadership did not stand in solidarity with those people. You did not have Nancy Pelosi or Harry Reid or any top senator or congressman with those people encouraging them and leading the kind of chants and the kind of encouragement that we saw yesterday. I mean, this is some of the ugliest rhetoric I think that I've seen in politics in a while, including some of the more ridiculous anti-Bush stuff.
And Markos, what does it do in terms of Democrats that you're targeting, for example, who may be looking for moderates? How can there be Democratic moderates who are looking for moderate Republicans to work with when it doesn't appear that the party is willing to embrace the moderates?
Well, there are moderate, I think, Republicans left. They're not in Congress. Those people are long gone, long extinct. But these are people like in New York 23 who were Republicans. This is a district that hadn't seen a Republican hadn't seen a Democrat in 120 years, and he elected a Democrat last Tuesday because these moderate Republicans realized that the modern Republican Party no longer represents them. Any party that will use pictures of dead Jewish children and compare that to affordable health care really has lost its ethical and moral moorings.
Congressman Tancredo, Speaker Boehner, yesterday there was a poster, there was a banner. We can show it again if you like. It was right there. Some of your ex-colleagues were there signing autographs under the banner. It didn't say a word. But on the issue of health care itself, when House Minority Leader Boehner says that this Democratic health care proposal is the biggest threat to freedom he has ever seen, do you agree with him that it's the biggest threat that you've ever seen? Really? Bigger than communism, bigger than terrorism, bigger than loose nuclear weapons? Go ahead.
It's a threat because it's coming from the President of the United States. It's coming from the leadership in the Congress, and it is a threat to the American way of life. It is, in fact, socialism. It is, in fact, taking over a huge, huge part of our economy. And so therefore, it is a true and very scary threat. And that's one place I certainly agree with you, in that instead of all this, what I certainly believe is posturing, I mean, we don't even know that poster that you're looking at. For all I know, it was a Democrat, like the one in Michigan. You know, remember the guy holding the poster of Obama looking like a Nazi? That was a Democrat. That was a Democrat doing that.
Nobody, if it was a Democratic infiltrator,
so how do I know? How do I know?
You say something.
It could have been. It could have been.
Well, Congressman, let's explore. When you talk about a threat,
but we should go back and talk about health care. You're right. That's far more important than any posters.
When you describe it as a threat, what specifically are you referring to? Because a lot of Americans who have Medicare, which is essentially a single-payer government system, does Medicare threaten the security of the United States right now?
Well, that's an interesting point because, of course, the way that they try to say that this particular bill that they propose is not going to cost us $1.8 trillion is because they're going to take, an extra money is because they're going to take about $500 billion out of Medicare. Medicare has already got lots and lots of problems, and I do think it's a problem. Absolutely. You can't keep doctors
so how about
in
the
it because
Veterans Administration? The Veterans Administration is a single-payer system. Everybody in the military who was treated yesterday. So the military members, their health care system, that's also a threat to our freedom.
Talk to every veterans group I ever went and talked to complained about the Veterans Administration and the way it was a bureaucratically run program that didn't serve their needs. They would much rather have vouchers that would allow them to go out and buy their insurance in a private marketplace. They've talked about it. At least you're laughing, you may, but talk to the veterans. They talked to me, and that's what they said.
Markos?
So I'm telling you, there is no government-run...
Tom, I'm a veteran, okay? I did not get a deferment because I was too depressed to fight in a war that I supported in Vietnam. I'm a veteran, Tom.
Yeah, well, that's
what people want,
cheap,
they want a more
no-good,
effective. They want a more effective VA.
You cannot.
That's more money.
No, you're not going to. You're not going to do that. You're not going to try to insult me that way and then pretend like we're just going on and talk about that. You either apologize.
I'm not pretending anything. I told you straight up. The issue here is what the Republicans are afraid of. This is a threat to Republicans. They built an entire ideology predicated on telling people that government does not work. They are terrified of government programs that work because then people will realize that the government's not the enemy and that they're going to work. They're going to vote Democratic because Democrats are the party who realize that people need help and government can sometimes offer solutions.
Thank you, Markos Moulitsas, and also Congressman Tom Tancredo for the time that he was with us. I think he left a little bit early, but the congressman is always welcome on the show. We always appreciate hearing his point of view, and it's a feisty one, and that's what we like around here. Markos, thank you as well. One final comment regarding the health care situation in this country. The status quo right now is this. 45,000 Americans die each year because they don't have health insurance. Our nation ranks 31st in life expectancy, 34th in maternal mortality, and 37th in infant mortality. For one party, one half of our political system to not take this problem seriously and to refuse to offer any real serious solutions is a disgrace. There are legitimate concerns, as the congressman raised, about deficit spending and the role of the government in tackling our health care problem. But concentration camps and communist takeovers are not among them. For Republican leaders to suggest otherwise is a degradation of the office they hold. And if these elected Republicans think government is so evil, perhaps they should consider another line of work.